Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Trinity. Probably you've heard that from a number of people, but it's still a very warm welcome. And to this talk on the degree course, Ancient and Medieval History and Culture. Now, this course is actually a relatively new one. It only started in 2009, and we only have fourth years for the first time this year. So it won't be until the end of this academic year that we actually have graduates from the programme. It brings together three disciplines. It's actually a unique course. You can't do this anywhere else in Ireland or in the UK. It brings together history of art, ancient and medieval history, and archaeology. And so, you know, it's something that is it is interdisciplinary in all respects. In some of the modules that you take in this four-year programme, remember it's a four-year programme, in some of the modules you will be in with students who study history or ancient history and archaeology, but there are also special modules that are provided specifically for students doing this course. The intake, by the way, each year is around about 15. We have a quota of 15, but we invariably take a couple more. Let's take a closer look. First of all, perhaps we ought to ask ourselves, well, why bother with studying the ancient medieval worlds? Now, of course, I believe it's worth it. I'm a Roman archaeologist, so, but it's my job to convince you. Studying the ancient and medieval worlds and studying them together actually allows us to understand the world we live in. For example, here, although not specifically in this building, we are in an institution that was founded in 1592, which is not medieval, but it was based on medieval foundations of a religious institution. The way in which Trinity, or at least you are greeted by Trinity if you come in via front gate, is actually via the ancient world, because we've got classical orders and the classical style of architecture that is used for many of the 18th century parts of college. And if you've been over in Front Square, it tends to surround you completely. But there are other reasons why looking at it is important, and these are some of the themes that we look at in the course. For example, politics, which of course is so much a part of our modern world. Democracy was, quote unquote, born in 5th century Athens. It's not quite like our democracy, but this is where you see the development of this kind of thinking. The kind of thing that, of course, is so important to the Western world in particular, but of course is important for the wider world as well. Just picking out a few things that are important. Law. If any of you are interested in going into a career in law, will remember Roman law is something that prevailed through the medieval period, or legal procedure based on Roman law, right up to the 18th century. And indeed, there are still main elements of Roman law that you will find in modern legal procedure, including concepts that are often described in Latin that we are all familiar with the Latin, but we might not be able to say exactly what that concept is. We're looking also at a time period. This is roughly 2000 BC up to about 1500 AD. We're looking at a time period that sees massive changes in all areas of society. And one of the biggest changes that has an impact on us here in Ireland is, of course, the rise of Christianity. The rise of Christianity and the way in which Christianity takes on a role with the state and sometimes against the state. So Christianity and politics are something that provides a theme. And of course, Christianity and its relationship with other faiths. The big three, so the other two, Judaism and of course Islam. And there are courses in the Crusades and aspects of the Crusades, that great interaction, if you like, between Christian forces and those of Islam. And of course, given that we're sitting here in a university, this is also the time when you get the development of the idea of a university. The oldest university, or at least the one that claims that the credit for being the oldest university, is Bologna, founded in 1088. You've got a view of it there. Salamanca in Spain also is on that list of oldest universities, certainly pre-1218, which you see down in the left-hand screen. And then just for your amusement, if you were in the early 1300s, down in the bottom right, that's what you would look like if you were attending a lecture, rather different from the kind of thing that we're experiencing here. The thing is, these universities were developed out of religious communities. That was their context. And they had a dual interest in theology, but also in law. So we come back to some of these themes that occur elsewhere in the course. So, what is the degree in ancient and medieval history and culture? It's a single honours degree, 4-year programme, and it focuses on the cultural and political genesis of Europe. So again, another important theme. We are all now part of the European community, whatever we might think of that. This is the time period when ideas about Europe are beginning to develop, as well as aspects of society and culture that we think of as European, art, literature, etc. As I say, it brings together history of art, ancient and medieval history coming from the history department, and then ancient history and archaeology coming from the classics department. And of course, our focus, therefore, in the ancient world is Greek and Roman history and archaeology. There is also literature in there as part of the options later on in the course. Now, there are some special aspects to the course that you can choose to do. There is an opportunity for you to learn Latin at beginner's level. In order to do that, you have to substitute some of the classics courses in first year. You can drop the course, the Latin, if you like, after first year, either because you don't get on with it or because you just wish to do other options. If you've learnt Latin at school, you can continue with the Latin in first year as well. The arrangements for that are slightly different, but there is the opportunity to do so. And you can continue with your Latin into second and third year if you wish, but you don't have to. There is also a field trip which you can take in both second and third year, and I will come back to that. You take that for credit. I'll come back to that in a minute. And then in third year, the other main specifically designed course for ancient and medieval history and culture is an interdisciplinary module on the city of Rome, looking at it from the point of view of urban history. So let's look at this in a little bit more detail. I've got a few of the handouts. I don't know how many of you have been to talk to people on the stand over in the dining hall. I've got a few of the handouts there, but please go over there. There's a lot more of them on the stand, and they give you this information on that handout. The first year provides introductory and, if you like, foundation courses, things that are important both in terms of information and the kinds of skills that you're going to require for your courses in second and third year. So, now sometimes these courses change. What I have based this on is what is being taught this year, just to give you an idea. So we've got Greek and Greek-Roman history. It should be Greek and Roman history. Greek and Roman art and architecture. 2 courses on Europe. And then introductory courses on European art and architecture and art history. And as I said, you can study Latin either at beginner or advanced level at this stage. So first year provides a foundation. And essentially, at each stage, each year, you get more and more choice. In first year, you come in and we basically tell you what you're going to do. But in second year, there are 3 core modules, which this year, as you can see, one on Europe, one on Roman imperial history, that alternates every other year with Greek history, and then the art history course is to the glory of God. So you do one in each area. And then after that, you choose your modules according to credit value. And again, these courses do vary from one year to the next, but to give you an idea of what's on offer this year, there's Roman archaeology, history and archaeology of Roman Britain, course on the 100 Years' War, another course which is on City Court Campagna. This is architecture 1400 to 1700. And there's also a course on Vikings and Anglo-Saxons. So again, very varied. The one restriction with the choice of modules is whether it works in the timetable. And we've actually found that we can accommodate most people's choices. When you get to third year, there's even more choice because there's one course we tell you have to do. And this is the interdisciplinary module on the ancient and medieval city of Rome. This is taught by specialists from all 3 departments. I'm one of the people who teaches on the course. And we take an approach which is called urban history. It's actually thinking about how did the city function? What was it like to live there? How did people interact with authorities, or not, as the case may be? Then there are choices from, some of them are very similar or the same as you might have if you're in second year, but others are different. So we've got the Greek and Roman history coming up, Roman archaeology, Roman Britain, but in medieval history, the reign of Charlemagne, so again, really the foundations of Europe, the archaeology of early medieval Ireland. So this is a course that is looking at Ireland, Britain, and the continent. So we take a very broad approach to the ancient and medieval periods. And then going on, there's one on Renaissance Florence. And the field trip, I should have mentioned that with the second year as well. Because the field trip, the field trip is a course that is taken, can be taken in second and third year. The reason being is that second and third years go on the same field trip and we change the destination each year. Last year, which is what these photographs come from, we went to Northumbria, sitting on the steps of Newcastle Castle, and then various views of our trip to Hadrian's Wall, which was extremely cold, a bit like today. So the field trip, therefore, we limit it to about 20 people so that it's manageable. At least 2 members of staff, usually 3 members of staff, go. This year, the trip is going to Florence. Next year, it will go to Canterbury in Kent. So as you can see, we alternate it between something that's a bit closer to home and then something, if you like, that's a little bit more exotic. The field trip, as I say, is assessed. You do it for credit. You have to do a presentation, you write up that presentation, and you do a research paper, obviously all with guidance. That research paper is an opportunity for you to do your own independent piece of research. And it's something that the students actually have found particularly enjoyable because it's something where they can make the decisions as opposed to us setting a question and then responding. Then in fourth year, it's completely different. Again, completely free choice here. You have to do, there are 2 elements. One is that you choose 2 what we call special subjects, which is from a list on offer, which again can vary from one year to the next. I'll give you an idea of what some of them are this year in a minute. And a dissertation. A dissertation is about 10,000 words. It's the longest piece of work you will have had to do up until that time. And it's on a topic relevant to the ancient and medieval worlds. People this year have chosen all sorts of different topics. Someone's doing Marco Polo. Someone else is talking about Roman frontiers or studying Roman frontiers. So we've got a very wide range of topics that have been chosen for the dissertation. The two special subjects, as I say, these vary from year to year simply because of the availability and of staff, whether staff are on leave or whatever. But these special subjects are really good examples of research-led teaching, because we teach subjects that we are actually carrying out research in. So you will get the latest information. For example, this year, some of the courses that are being taught, there's Hellenistic and Roman Egypt, Cyprus is another one, Papacy and Empire. There's also a topic in art history called Saints and Sinners. So again, that gives you an idea of the range. There's about 7 or 8 on offer in any one year. Now, of course, this is the first year that we've had fourth years. So, next year, the range of courses will be different. But what will you be studying? I've told you the courses, but what actually will you be looking at? Well, it's a huge range of material, source material, primary evidence that you will be looking at. Manuscripts, documents, monuments, monuments that might be triumphal arches or cathedrals or castles, inscriptions in various forms, coins. The classics department has its own coin collection, which we use in teaching whenever we can. Documents I've already mentioned, as opposed to inscriptions. Literary texts, so ancient written sources that are not quite like our modern history, but the equivalent. And of course, artefacts. Artefacts which might be, for example, the Sutton Hoo helmet, which you see down at the bottom, or it might be a pot or a sculpture, or it might be small pieces of metalwork like brooches. So a whole variety of different types of material that we will be looking at. Now, I've put here, what will you be studying again? Well, it's really who are we studying? This course is not just about big events and important people. In fact, it's much more than that. They're important, dates are important, but actually what's more important is to think about the little people, if I can call them that. The less important people, how did they live? How did they interact? What did they think? And what evidence do we have that allows us to understand what they thought? Where did they worship? Why did they worship in big churches as opposed to small ones in a particular location? So therefore, people is our focus. In Trinity, we are particularly fortunate to have a collection of manuscripts, some of which, of course, you can see on display in the old library. The Book of Kells, which you see here on the left, and various other manuscripts which the library holds as well. And also, perhaps less well known, but just as important, an important body of Greek and Roman papyrus documents. This is the ancient equivalent of paper that we have archived in the library. And these are available, obviously not on a day-to-day basis for access, but they are available to us to use as a resource. What about relevance to modern culture? Well, I've already mentioned a number of things, but perhaps to bring it more up to date, I hope you do recognise some of these. Brad Pitt, there in Troy, of course, slightly earlier, Russell Crowe in Gladiator, and then we've got Clive Owen as Arthur there in the film King Arthur. All of these, I mean, it just shows you how the ancient and medieval worlds are still popular, possibly for all the wrong reasons, but that doesn't matter. It means that they still have relevance to us today. And it's interesting to think about how we interact with those worlds and the ways in which popular perception develops, and how that popular perception actually might be a little bit skewed or biased. Now, one thing you are also able to do in the Ancient and Medieval History and Culture programme, if you want, is to take a year abroad to study as part of your course. Now, given that we've only had 3 full years, we've not been able to test this significantly, but we have had 2 people who have spent their 2nd year abroad. These are the links, main links that we have through the 3 departments that we can make use of. Obviously, if you go to France, Switzerland, Germany, or Italy, or Spain, you actually have to have that language. That's the one problem, if you like, with studying abroad. That if you go to the continent in order to study in those universities, you are going to need to have the necessary language. We've got 2 links with the UK, Manchester and St Andrews in Scotland, and there are also other exchange programmes that will be available to you to allow you to study in North America, the States and Canada, and we had someone who went to Canada last year. So there are opportunities to study abroad as well. Now, of course, I think probably the biggest question, the most often asked question that we get, no matter what course we're talking about, is, yeah, but what can I do with it? What can I do once I leave college? A whole variety of different types of career would be open to you. Some which are related and vocational would be the kinds of things I've listed here: archaeologist, museum and heritage work, archival work, auction houses, conservation, a teacher, publishing, and university research and teaching. We do have people who go on to do postgraduate work as well in the 3 areas. But of course, you might not want to stick within the area. You might want to go off and make lots of money somewhere else. Sorry, the formatting's gone slightly weird here. And the Ancient and Medieval History and Culture degree is the same as many other degree programmes. It says something about you in terms of your general qualifications, which you can then use in a whole variety of different areas, many of which provide you with further training anyway. So, for example, the civil service, librarianship, accountancy, law is certainly something that is open to you. Advertising, business, computing, financial services. And these are just a few that we could think of and fit onto the slide. The opportunities are very great, and it's what you make of them in many respects, and the skills that you learn through the study of the ancient medieval worlds. Because this is the other thing that you must remember. You are learning a whole range of skills as well as the information, and those skills are one of the things that your future employers are going to be interested in. So, as I say, please go and talk to the people on the stand if you haven't already. You can pick up more information there. The website has rather a long URL, as you can see. The easiest thing is to go to the Histories and Humanities website, which is the school website, and you will find the link from there very easily to Ancient and Medieval History and Culture. You are welcome to get in touch with any of the 3 departments. I've put my name there, Hazel Dodge. I'm the course director. My email address, you are more than welcome to get in touch with us if you have any further questions. And indeed, if anyone's got any questions now, I'm very happy to at least try to answer them. Okay, thank you very much.